Hello, writer friends. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Micah Craddy, WJ screenwriter and the head of writing at Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. You can use it to write your scripts if you want, like I do. There's a link in the description, or you can just Google Arc Studio Pro. Today on Let's Write Scripts, we're going to be doing some timed writing sprints. We're going to do 3 of them. And during those sprints, you can just work on whatever it is that you came here to work on. We're all working on different projects at different stages, but it's just like a really good time for you to set aside, to come together with fellow creatives, bond in the chat, ask screenwriting questions, and get some writing done. So we're going to have a great time. So yeah, we'll be doing 3 timed writing sprints. And then during the breaks between the sprints, I'll be answering screenwriting questions. Before we get into it, I want to know, where are you? And what are you writing today? We have people from all over the world. So exciting. Many continents, still searching for that Antarctica person to join us. So maybe today's the day. But yeah, people from all over the world tuning in. Love to see everyone. So I would love to see everyone in the chat know, where are you and what are you writing today? So what kind of script? Are you writing a feature? Are you writing a pilot? Are you writing a short film? Or are you writing some other kind of creative writing thing? Are you working some poetry, essays, short fiction, a novel? Or maybe you're just doing some work and you want some creative company. Either way, so glad you are here. We also usually have like a discussion question of the week to kind of get our brains going. And I was thinking about the question today, and it actually kind of turned into more of a topic that in just a moment I kind of want to share some thoughts on. It kind of came out of some of the writing I've been doing the past week, and it's kind of about building potential energy in your script, because that's what I was doing when I was like working with the character. I felt like I'm like, what am I doing? It's like, oh, it's like in physics when you're the idea of potential energy. And so I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But yeah, let me know, where are you and what are you writing today? I'd like to see people in the chat. Yeah. So where are all y'all in the US, Europe, South America, Asia, Africa, Australia? All the continents usually are represented here. So let's get in the chat. If you're feeling it, please like this video, hit subscribe, turn notifications on. And of course, during the second break, as usual, I'm going to be showing the sandwich of the week. The sandwich of the week is the best looking or tasting or most interesting sandwich that I made this week. It's a highlight of Let's Write Scripts. And if you're like, really want to see that, you have to wait to the second writing break, because I used to show it early and then people would get hungry and it got distracted from writing. Shoko, welcome. So glad you're here. How's your week been? Not too bad. The writing actually has been going really, really well. I've been like in a great rhythm, so I'm excited about that. Eats a lot of bread. So glad you are here. And as I mentioned with the sandwich of the week, like that, your bread love has found a home here, because the bread is maybe one of the most important, maybe the most important part of the sandwich. So glad you are here. Shok, that's a good question about slug lines. We can get to that in a little bit. Tessa, so glad you're here in Studio City, Antarctica, the capital of Antarctica, Studio City, working on a pilot. Shok is working on a feature screenplay and some short films. Awesome. Ciara, and hey man, welcome back from Ireland, I believe, continually working on the episodic script. DJ outside Nashville working on a feature. Martley working on a feature in snow-covered St. Louis. I hope you're staying warm there. Pam in New Mexico working on your feature-length rom-com. Maybe it's more of a rom-drom-com. Oh, that's fun. Because really you would think that's a dram, but like drama. So like rom-drom-com, or a drom-com. I feel like that is an underused rhyme. Pam, you've just like blown this whole thing wide open. Like, yeah, you have rom-coms, but like you could have rom-droms, drom-coms, like all sorts of things. So this is just blowing my mind right now. So glad that you are all here today. All right, so I want to talk about this idea of potential energy in your script. So in physics, potential energy basically has to do with like the stored energy in like an object or a system. And it was always weird because it didn't feel like there was energy. Because like if you're thinking of stored energy, you're thinking of like a battery, right? Where there's literally like electricity or something in there. But when they talked about potential energy, they talk about like a roller coaster, at the top of the track, about to do into the drop, or a spring that's compressed. And the idea is that there's something about where they are, that there is going to be a potential release of energy. Even like I think like a stick of dynamite could have like potential energy, right? The chemical energy in there that's going to be released. So there are these things that like, they kind of look stable, right? Like the roller coaster at the top, you know, the spring that's compressed, just a stick of dynamite. You look at them and you're like, nothing's happening, but they are all potentially very exciting, potentially destructive, potentially spectacular, you know, a firework, all of these kind of things. And that's something in screenwriting that you can do, where you can basically throughout your script build the energy, the potential energy in your story, in your characters, and then release it, right? So oftentimes, and this can happen at the story level, at the whole structure level, or even at the scene level, more locally, right? And so in like the first half, oftentimes you're sort of, I mean, not exactly half, but like in the beginning, you're building it and then you're releasing it. So here are a couple examples, right? So like you have a meek character who's getting taken advantage of and getting bullied. They're not sticking up for themselves, but you can see every time this happens to them, they just kind of like, they're squishing it inside, right? They're like dealing with their features, just kind of cramming it down, trying to ignore it. But then you just know, like at some point, someone's going to push them a little too far and they're going to explode, right? So all those little things that are happening to them, all the little injustices, those are all building the potential energy inside of that character that is going to explode. Or there's a village, right? Maybe this is kind of you know, a period piece or something like medieval times or something, and they're getting reports of witchcraft. Weird things are happening. They're finding animal parts around. You know, there's weird noises at night, and this kind of stuff keeps building up and building up and building up, and eventually, you know, the torches get lit, the witch hunt begins, you know, things kind of go crazy. And you have that thing where these small things, people are trying to keep it together, but it's building up. Or, you know, in a scene, you can have a toddler just bugging their mom, or their dad, like bugging a parent, and just, you know, like dad, mom, you know, and the parent just kind of trying to like do something important and trying to ignore them. And then like finally the parent just kind of snaps and it's like, what? Right. And then they feel bad about it because they like yelled at their kid. But there's this thing where it's building, it's building, it's building, and it releases. Those are all kind of negative examples, but it doesn't have to be negative. So, for instance, you could have a romance, right, where the chemistry between the characters is building and they're kind of like, you know, flirting a little bit, but they're kind of maybe it's a forbidden romance or something, or you know, they work together, or it's gonna be awkward or something. So they're kind of trying to ignore their feelings, and but it's like building up and the tension's building up, and then finally they have the big kiss, right, where it's all the tension is kind of released. So these are kind of different examples of like how to build the tension. Um, and what's really good about this kind of thing is that you can have compelling scenes and compelling things happening without it actually being crazy. Like there's sometimes I'll see things in scripts where every scene is a fight, a shootout, an argument, a betrayal, you know, like all of these kinds of things. Because they're like, I want it to be exciting. So I'm going to have everything be exciting. But in the end, none of those things actually end up being exciting because the potential energy wasn't being built up. So, for instance, if there's a betrayal, right? Like someone betrays me, if that happens before the audience gets to know us, before they get to know why this relationship, me and the other person, is so important to me, why it matters, how devastating it's going to be if I am betrayed. If it happens before that stuff, then like betrayal doesn't mean anything. You have to build that potential energy, and then the betrayal happens, and it's like, oh my. So the cool thing about this is that you can have scenes that aren't explosions, that aren't all these crazy things, yelling, whatever, crying, and they're still compelling and you want to watch because the audience can tell that these things are going to have an impact in the future, right? That they're almost like making a promise, a quiet moment that promises a loud moment. You know, going up the roller coaster, being at the top is exciting because of what's going to go down. So it's something to think about as you're writing, is that you don't have to have every scene be fireworks and explosions. Sometimes the scenes are packing in the energy, and then you have the scenes that are releasing the energy. Yeah, so those are just kind of some thoughts here. Juno, so glad you're here. And Nexus as well. Shoko, so the better you build a potential energy acts 1 and 2, lead more explosive third act. Yeah, no, that's like a good way of looking at it. But you can also do this like in smaller, kind of like more localized things, right? Like it doesn't have to be over the entire course. It could be in a scene. It could be in a sequence of scenes. A few scenes happen. So it's like you're kind of like it's always about arcs, right? So you're building things up and then explosion. But like, yeah, exactly. Oftentimes this is going to be a first and second act kind of thing, and then the big one's going to happen in the third. Sort of like Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's gun, a little bit. I think Chekhov's gun is a little bit more foreshadowing. It's a little bit more of a signal. I mean, I think Chekhov's gun kind of does apply a little bit to what I'm saying, but it would be more like Chekhov's like bugging, Chekhov's like little things happening to people that are building the tension, not necessarily just like the presence of an objects here. Yeah. Which scene is the opening of Inglorious Bastards? I can't remember actually how it opens. Oh, right. No, that's the one where they're hiding under the floor. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, like that happens in a little bit, right, where you have the tension being built over the course of the scene, and then you have it broken down. So that that would be a little bit the farmhouse scene. Yeah. So that's just kind of a little mini lecture here to get our brains going today. All right. Now I think we should get into the first writing sprint. If you're new, let me just kind of like show you how this works. Basically, in just a second, I'm going to have a timer up on the screen. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to shrink over to the corner, and then we are going to I'm going to play some vibey music. And in this time sprint, you just work on whatever it is that you came here to work on, whatever your script is. Give this time. And then after the sprint, I'll be answering some screenwriting questions that you might have. So this first 15-minute sprint, it's like low key. It's the warm-up sprint. Oftentimes that you are kind of reading over your stuff. Maybe you're doing some free writing. You're just kind of trying to get in that creative, zone. It's like you probably maybe weren't thinking about screenwriting before you tuned in, right? You're like, you got a lot going in your life. And so this kind of is a time to like get in that zone. But if you're like ready to go, then like just jump in and do it. I didn't answer the questions myself, by the way. I'm working on a feature. Last week, I was talking to you guys about kind of vomit drafts and the idea of like half vomit drafts or exploratory drafts, which is kind of what I do, which is basically I write like 40% of my script, and it's in that 40% that I realized what's working and what's not working. So I did that, and I spent the last week just kind of like really thinking about that, what's working, not working, doing a lot of free writing actually like by hand, which is fun to do, I have to say. Just it's a different part of your brain. So I spent like kind of the last week figuring out what's working, what's not working, kind of re-breaking my story, my character arcs. And today what I'm going to be working on is basically kind of distilling these pages and pages of writing kind of into my action plan for rewriting part of what I have and then like finishing the script. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. And I think it's going to be a good day. I think we're going to get some great writing done. So we're going to jump into the first sprint. Again, this is the 15-minute sprint. It's the chill sprint. Don't feel the pressure. Don't feel like pressure to like that you have to get so much done. Do that creative headspace. That's going to help you. So we're going to do 15 minutes on the clock. And then we'll chat and I'll answer some questions on the other side. For 15 minutes on my clock. Let's do it. I'm glad you guys are here. All right. That brings us to the end of the first writing sprint here on Let's Write Script. Sorry, that was supposed to be plural. Let's Write Scripts. We're actually all writing one script together now. We're working on our different scripts. So glad that everyone is here. I want to welcome everyone who joined during that writing sprint. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm so glad that you're with us. That was our first writing sprint. And if you did that writing sprint, I want to know how did it go? Are the muses with us? Are you feeling energetically, creatively energetic? Are the words flowing? Are the thoughts going? Or is it just like kind of like an old car that you're like turning the ignition and it's revving, but like not quite going, and you might need a jump start? Either way, let me know. And if you're dealing with some issues, it's not quite going well. What's going on? If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask in the chat. I'd love to get into it. Anything about character, story, arcs, scenes, whatever it is, get in the chat and let me know. And I'd be happy to chat about it. All right, cool. So this was a question you asked earlier, but another version about this. When writing a scene where two characters are having a phone call in two locations, how do you deal with a slug line? Like if it cuts back and forth between locations depending on the speaker. Cool. Yeah. So when you asked this earlier, you kind of asked it in a more general question, which is also kind of good for me to answer. basically, when it comes down to phone calls in your script, there's two basic kinds. I mean, you can write them a whole different ways, but like the two basic kinds are, um, is are you seeing just one side of the conversation or are you seeing both sides of the conversation, right? And I actually like wrote up a little bit of an example here. So let me make this a little bigger. So the one-sided is incredibly simple, right? You just have the slug line of the place you are, the character who we see, and then the other person. There's different ways of doing this. This is a stylistic thing. For instance, this is phone. I like to do this. I think like kind of the more standard way is to do VO here in the parentheses, but I like phone. And I also like to do the person on the other end in italics. To me, this just kind of signals that the voice that we're hearing is sort of filtered through the phone. It has that kind of, it's not just, we're not hearing them directly, we're hearing them kind of through the phone speaker, right? So the other way to do it is, right, a place where we are in two locations. This is kind of what you're asking. So the basic way you would do this is with an intercut. So the point of an intercut is that it avoids you having to basically put the slug line for each side every time you change side, right? You just do the first one, interior house day. Jack reads a book in bed. His phone rings. He answers, "What's up, dude?" And then you could say intercut with Tom's house, same time. Tom washes dishes as he talks. Not much, bro. Washing the dishes. Jack puts his book down. So, right. So we're back to Jack, but I didn't have to put Jack's slug line again because an intercut means that we're just going back and forth between the two, and we don't have to say each time. And it's just implied who we're seeing by the action. If it says Jack puts his book down, we get that we are on Jack right now. We're not with Tom. So this is kind of a longer way to just answer your question because I think it's just good information in general to share with people. But the way you do this is with an intercut. And an intercut, yeah, is a great way to be able to like move back and forth between two locations without having to have to keep putting the slug line every time. So simplicity is very, very helpful here. Hey, Christian, welcome from South Carolina. Rewriting Act 1 until you're happy with it. We were something Will Tracy's supposed to find frustrating, but stuff's not that good. The whole inspiration versus frustration thing is so it's so funny because you'll go see a movie, you'll read something, and sometimes you're like, oh, that's so brilliant, and I want to go do it, and you're just like filled with creative energy. And then sometimes you'll read or see something and just be like, how do they do that? I don't know how to do that. But even that sometimes when the jealousy can kind of distill into inspiration because it gets your brain thinking about things, but that's good. Shoke had a good writing sprint. We're going to drill structure. That's fun. Ciaran, what's meant to be a 60 page script for our TV? I'm not even through act 1 and I'm about to hit page 30. You got to finish the first draft sometimes to figure out what it is and what it's trying to be and what kind of changes need to be made. Do anybody ever go through a phase where you just don't like anything you write? Currently in the slump, it's so demoralizing. I wish I could get this magic back. Do I think we all go through this. And I think just to say that, like, I know it stinks. I'm not going to say like, oh, don't worry about it. Cause like you are going to worry about it. I think that this can happen for a lot of different reasons though. Sometimes it happens just because of us, whatever the place we're in emotionally, mentally, whatever. We're just like, there's a lot going on maybe, and we just can't really get our brain kind of going in the direction we want it to be. If that happens, you just kind of like, you work your way through it. Eventually you find your way kind of through the other side, but like it can be the right thing. Sometimes it can be a sign though that like the project's not right, that you're working on something that's just not, it's not what you want to be working on. It's not the right approach. You just kind of haven't cracked it yet. And so it's hard to really sometimes to tell. Sometimes it's a sign that you don't really like the idea that you're working on, or that you sort of liked the idea of the idea, but then in practice, you're like, it's not really working, but you still kind of want to work it out. So there's like all different ways, and these are just things I've experienced. And there's like a ton of ways to feel about this. You just got to keep going, honestly. And this is, I know it's not like a cure all, but like free writing is fantastic because you kind of free yourself a little bit from like free writing, you're not writing the script, you're not writing the project, you're kind of writing about the project. It's like a sideways in, so that you can kind of figure out what the thing is, but how you're feeling about it too. And through that process, you could oftentimes kind of arrive at truths about how you're feeling about it, about what the project should be, about why you were excited about it, about maybe why it doesn't work, So free writing, I think, free writing in time, and sometimes it's like taking a walk. But there you go. Talking about phone calls earlier, yeah, I like phone as well. A lot of people use VO because it's sort of like it's technically correct in a sense that like that's in a script what it is. It's the other person's voiceover, but I think phone is clear because it just kind of shows you what people are there. Speaking of cuts, how is cut to? You mean cut to? I think cute to. We should have more cute tos in scripts, just like cute to a kitten. Just nothing to do with the script, just a little cute to moment where you have a puppy playing or like a little baby goat, which baby goats, I saw them at a state fair once, and it was they're the cutest things I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, little cute to moments. I love it. Okay, so but anyways, how is cut to used and why? This is funny. I actually answered a question on Reddit about this earlier today. Cut to is mostly not used. So cut to would be what you call a scene transition, right? So it'd be kind of on the right, and so you do like this. Let me do a transition. Cut to interior. I don't know where are we? Pool hall. Night. You don't need a cut to in most situations. It's kind of more, it was a thing that happened more kind of decades past. It was used in people were like would read old scripts and see it in there kind of between every scene, so you would think they're supposed to use it. Most of the time, you don't need a cut to at all between your scenes. I like to use cut tos when it's a signal. I like to use a cut to as a signal to the reader that something is changing. For instance, if we've had several, let's say we have two characters. We have Pam and what's another name? Juno, right? Okay. And we've been with Pam for like 3 scenes in a row. Pam does this, Pam does this, Pam does this. Now I'm going to a scene somewhere else with Juno. It's going to be kind of from Juno's POV. Pam's not there. If we had 3 Pam scenes in a row and now we're going to like a Juno scene, in my mind, there's going to be that transition, that moment where the reader is expecting the next scene to stay kind of with Pam maybe, but something's shifted. We're in a different place. And so I'll put a cut to, so I'll have like the 3 Pam scenes with no cut tos or between them. And then after the last one, I'll put a cut to and then do the Juno scene, because it's kind of like we're going someplace else now. We're moving to a different thing now. And so it's a signal to the reader so that they're not reading that next scene and then being like, wait, what is this? Where did Pam go? Or like, I thought, or like, it's like they're expecting to still be with Pam because there were 3 scenes with Pam. So I'll use a cut to when we're going, it's a signal to the reader that like, hey, we're leaving this thing that we've been with for a while, and now we're going to this other thing. That's really the only time I use a cut to specifically, I would say. When interesting camera reduction sparingly in a script, would you capitalize the words or keep it in sentence case? If I'm using them, I would put them in all caps. I don't use them that much. I don't, and the thing is like, I think don't think of them as camera directions. Like, think of them as the picture in the reader's mind, right? Like, what is the reader going to see? Like, and so it's not like I don't put like a dolly up or I try not to use those things. I just try to think about like the picture I'm painting in the reader's mind and like what image do I want them to be imagining in their head. And I try to describe it more in that way, because the person, it's like you're writing it kind of for that reader. I think. Yeah. All right. So, what about big action moments where scene is intercutting from multiple moments happening at the same time? Yeah, I mean, with cuts, like the thing is like you just want it to be clear. You want it to be clear and kind of quick. Those are like the two things. Make it easy to read and just clear to the reader what's happening. So you kind of use your own judgment, often in doing that. I will say. Um, Eats a Lot of Bread had a question earlier. When localizing scenes, how does the writer indicate the smaller important moments for the bigger ones for themselves as the audience? And I was kind of trying to ask in the chat, Mr. Ms. Bread, what you meant by localizing, because localization or localizing has to do with like making something specific to a location. So I'm not sure what you're asking here. But in general, if I just can say, how does the writer indicate smaller important moments for the bigger ones? I mean, there's two things. I mean, it's how you write it. I mean, you spend more time with the bigger moments, right? Like you can think of the amount of time that the reader's going to spend reading about something as kind of like the amount of time that it's going to be kind of on the screen, but it's just like in the impact you put it. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly how to say it because I'm not 100% sure what you were asking. But you write it in such a way that like the important moments is what's going to stick with them. I don't want to say that otherwise, and then just like you just write it that way. But like in terms of the time you spend on it, uh, in terms of like how the character is reacting to it. Yeah, you just want to make sure that the important moments are really clear. I'll say. I mean, clarity is important, but you're also kind of spending enough time on them. And you also asked when thinking about the length of a screenplay, what would you say the ratio between stored and potential energy? So if you just joined earlier, we were talking about the idea of potential energy, that like a lot of times in a script, you're storing potential energy, you're kind of like building the tension and then you're releasing it. So I don't have an exact number, but I would say most of what you're doing is storing, right? You're building to things and then there's the release. And the reason is because we're talking about if every scene is the release, every scene is a fight, every scene is a reveal, a betrayal, a this, a that, then it doesn't have any impact, right? So you have to think about, you have to build up the energy enough for the releasing of it to matter. So most of it is going to be yeah, the storing and the other thing. Yeah. All right. Thanks for hosting. This is very helpful. Not a writing question, but I'm very curious what the story is for the axe on the wall behind you. Sure. So if you're a regular here, you'll notice I'm not in my normal office. I'm in this office occasionally, but usually I'm in a different office because this is my wife's office and I have a kind of separate office. But occasionally I'm in hers. So this is her office. And this axe, this was years ago. We were up at a cabin in Mammoth and it had no electricity and it just had a stove, a wood burning stove. And so I was chopping firewood. And then I was kind of showing my wife at the time, my girlfriend, how to do it. And then I recorded her chopping some firewood and sent it to my parents. And my parents were just tickled pink by it. They just thought it was the coolest thing ever. That my wife was chopping wood. And so they, as a gift, found like a Latvian blacksmith or something on like Etsy or something and bought an axe for her that had it engraved that says like warrior princess or something like that on it and sent it to my wife and put it up on her wall. So that is a gift from my parents to my wife, which slightly scary if you think about it, but that's why it is on the wall. All right, one more question. When adapting a novel or play, should you only use the original text for dialogue or can you add original lines? Well, there's a lot of questions in that. I mean, like one, it depends on like what rights you have, but the bigger question is that you need to think the adaptation as a separate thing. You're not just changing the format from a novel or play into a feature. You are writing a new thing. And basically, often what you're trying to do is bottle the essence of the original, whatever that thing is, and have it expressed in a new way. And so, you know, if you look at adaptations, they're going to be a mixture of the two, right? Some of the adaptations are going to have a lot of the original dialogue, and that's going to be great and it's fantastic. But there's also going to be new stuff in there, because unless you're basically like, I mean, doing like a Shakespeare, like a Hamlet or Macbeth, you know, movie where they're just using basically the play. But if you're adapting something, let's just say from like a book more, a play can be a little more direct at times, but like a book, it's going to be a different thing. It's a different kind of animal. So yeah, you're going to have some of the original in there, but a lot of it is going to have to adapt to what you're doing. You're going to be cutting things. You're going to have to add things. You're going to be compressing things. You know, it's a whole different kind of things. Yeah, I think more of like a mood board than a blueprint. But it's also, there's all different kinds of adaptations. There's some adaptations are like very faithful, and some adaptations are very loose. And so it's kind of what you want to do. Like, what are you inspired by? Are you just like, you love this thing and you love the word so much that you want to do it? Or is it more a loose kind of adaptation, because you like something in it, but you're using it more of as a jumping off point. And so it's a big spectrum between the two. All right, one last question before we get to the next writing sprint. Any recommendations on working on projects that have tons of characters and ideas working in it? How do I organize the setups, payoffs, subplots, misdirections, and scene order? Well, I can give you a couple different answers to this. I mean, one like is a technical thing, which I'll say like use a good screenwriting software. So like Arc Studio has the plot board here where you can have your acts, all your story beats, and you can tag them all like with the characters and the storylines. And so you have like a visual kind of outline of what's going on. And you can have what happens in the beats. You know, you can do a lot of organization here. So this is Arc Studio, which presenting this. So, you know, obviously a little biased. But you can also recreate this non-digitally, like index cards on a corkboard. You can do it like that. You can use a like, you know, a whiteboard kind of app, you know, more of like a, you know, digital whiteboard kind of thing. So those are sort of like process oriented or like tool oriented answers to this question. But in terms of like the craft of it, it really helps if you, one, understand like whose story it is. Like, how much of a true ensemble is it? Is it like everyone's storyline kind of equals, or is it like one main person story and everyone's supporting? Like figuring out what kind of story it is, because that's going to really tell you how much time, page, you know, space goes to the different things. Two, just really keeping clear in your mind, I would say, I don't actually know if this is number two, I just said two, figuring out, like really knowing what all the characters want, right? What do they want? And like, what are they going for? And like keeping that in mind, because you're going to have all these scenes where you have these different characters, different combinations of characters, and it can get very confusing. But if you understand like who these people are and what they want, then like every time you're in a scene with them, you're going to understand, like you're going to have a sense of where it goes and like what to do, because you know who they are. So really figuring out what they want, I would say. How do I organize setups, payoffs, subplots, misdirections, and scene order? Yeah, I mean, this is also just like, you're kind of asking about like all of screenwriting and fiction writing in general, right? Like it's a huge question. But yeah, I mean, like keeping track of it with a good tool, remembering what all the characters want, those are a good, you know, start, I would say. And like giving more weight to the important ones, right? If you have a main character, most of the scenes are going to be with them. And making sure that if you do have like a main character too, that like the supporting characters, what they're doing is having an impact on the main character, is something to keep in mind here. Yeah, drawing diagrams by hand, pen and paper. That also, yeah. I mean, like there's different ways of approaching it. Like I do most of my stuff on my computer, but like I mentioned earlier, like for the past week, I've been free writing on a legal pad, and it's great because one thing, a legal pad can't distract you. There's no internet. This baby doesn't get internet. There's no Instagram on this thing, so there's no like TikTok. You can't. There's no scrolling to get distracted with. So we're like, whatever tool is good with you. Yeah, Figma, is that's a 3D or sorry, digital whiteboard kind of thing, that you can use. All right, I actually said we do one more question, but I'll say this is the last question. I would like to know why writing a pilot is so hard. Feeling frustrated today, but this is all very helpful. A pilot is hard because you're not writing one story. You are creating a world, you are creating a problem that is going to generate many stories. So a movie is one story. A pilot is a story, a problem, a conflict that is going to generate problem after problem after problem. It's a story generator, which is a different thing. Specifically, also, if you're like used to just writing movies, then writing TV can be conceptually very difficult. So I will say there. All right. Now we're actually going to move on to the next writing sprint. This is great. So many good questions. I'm so glad to just I love talking about it. You can like see me get more animated as I talk about this stuff. But let us get into the next writing sprint. So this is the 25-minute writing sprint. It's the Goldilocks writing sprint because we're warmed up, but we're not yet tired. Oftentimes the best work gets done during this writing sprint. I'm going to play some more music. Going to put 25 minutes on the clock. Of the week. And yeah, I'm so glad y'all are here. But like, let's do some more writing. Let's write scripts as the title says. 25 minutes on the clock. Here we go. All right. That is the end of the second writing sprint here on Let's Write Scripts. A big welcome to anyone who joined during that second writing sprint. Welcome to Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio, best screenwriting app in the world. I'm Micah Craddy, WGA screenwriter and the head of writing at Arc Studio. So glad y'all are here. If you're doing that writing sprint, how did it go? If things were tough with the first writing sprint, did they turn around with that second writing sprint? Did you find your rhythm? Did you get your second wind? Were things downhill? Did you get the car into gear? Any metaphor, whatever you want. And if things were going well in the first sprint, did the things take? Did you run out of gas? Did you hit a pothole? Did you what other get an fender bender? I don't know what other car crash things you want to say. Yeah, let me know. And if there were any specific issues, any questions that you want to ask about screenwriting, about the craft, anything you're struggling with. I know last break we did a ton of questions, so maybe we won't do as many this time because we're almost out of time here. But if you have any quick ones here before the end, yeah, I'd love to do it. That writing sprint went well for me. I've got this like giant one of the cool things about Arc Studio, I have to say, is the checklist feature in the notes. And I have just like massive checklist that I've put together of all these things. Cause again, I said, I've been like free writing for a week in here. And I'm putting all of this into a checklist of like the things I want to do for rewriting the first section of my script, which I wrote already, and then what I'm going to do in the second half. So it's like just this massive checklist that I'm putting together, which is slightly intimidating because there's a lot. Wow, there's a lot here that I need to do, but it also feels good because I feel like I have a plan, and so that is exciting. And then I'll also show the sandwich of the week. Of course, the muses were slow to arrive, but the muse party is bumping now. Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Yeah, ain't no party like a muse party, because a muse party is very quiet and studious. It is funny, just like when things are like firing, like how much energy and joy you can have quietly, just like silently writing, but like there's just fireworks going off in your brains when it's going well. I love that, like the juxtaposition, like someone looks at you from the outside and you're just like very quiet or whatever. Maybe you're smiling or something, but it's just very, but like on the page, it's just like you're just like, oh, everything's going off. So glad to hear it. Kelly has on a roll as well. Fantastic. Muses are firing for Zoe. She's got a question. When writing sports scenes, how descriptive should it be to avoid confusion and frustrating readers? Ooh, that's good. I wrote a sports thing, recently. And yeah, so I was dealing with this a lot. So some of it's going to depend on like what the sport is, right? So like the more, if it's like a baseball game or like a football, you can sort of in the US, you can assume some, or basketball, you can assume some general knowledge, right, of the reader. They're probably going to understand the basics. If you're writing for an American, in America about cricket or something like that, then it's just like a little more important. But the thing is like it's the gist. It's like the gist. It's the vibe. You don't have to like get super nitty gritty, overcomplicated. You just like, what does the reader need to understand? As long as they understand that, and it's like the emotional highs and lows. Like, did the player screw up? Did they do a good thing? Like those kind of things. It's like the emotional kind of beats are more important than tracking exactly what happens. But this is a prime example. And this is kind of a cop-out answer, but a lot of it is reading scripts. Read sports scripts. Like I wrote a hockey thing, and I read a bunch of hockey scripts, but there's so many football movies and TV shows, basketball, soccer, baseball, whatever the sport is, or even just sports in general. Read great sports movie scripts. You can find them online, Google them, and you will. Yeah, that's a great way to learn that. Christian, I've watched a few movies recently with big stars in them, and something I've noticed with the ones that don't work is an absence of stakes or stakes that are too low to keep you caring. Stakes are super important. Yeah, stakes are what basically is at stake, right? What can be lost if you don't succeed. And that's such an important aspect of the stakes. Again, it doesn't have to. There's a kind of saying that I think has a lot of truth into it, that the stakes don't have to be life and death, but they just need to feel like life and death to the character, right? So it could be flunking a test. Like really, it doesn't need to be like the world's gonna blow up if I don't succeed. It just needs to feel like you know, my world's going to blow up if I don't succeed. So yeah, I think I'll say it again because I think it's a great phrase. It doesn't have to be life and death, but it needs to feel like life and death, or it should feel like life and death. There's always going to be some exceptions, but like it should feel like life and death. Like even like Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, if you've seen that, about two stoners trying to get hamburgers. And it's like, if they don't get hamburgers, what's going to happen? But like, and it's a silly, goofy stoner movie, right? But like, there's actually stakes in it because it has to be like, this is a metaphor for like what they're losing, for like their sort of fear to move into the next phase of their life. Like, it's about something, even though, again, it's not the end of the world, but it kind of feels like the end of the world to them. We are discussing screenwriting, actually. So unless it's Anaconda or then we are not discussing either of those scripts. All right. So we're going to do it every week. I show the sandwich of the week. It's one of the highlights of the show. People love it. It's the best looking or most interesting show. No worries. So glad you showed up. And I can understand Let's Write Scripts. There could be some confusion there. Glad you're here, Tony. Have a good one. But as I was saying, yeah, so every week here on Let's Write Scripts, after the second writing sprint, I show the sandwich of the week. All these sandwiches are sandwiches that I have made or bought on vacation. And I, well, usually the ones I make, but I eat them all. So here we go. This is such a funny time because you're like showed up to learn about scripting, and I'm literally just going to show a sandwich I made because it's a little goofy thing I do on this show. But if you go back and watch earlier during the breaks, I did answered a lot of questions about screenwriting. Anyways, glad you're here, Tony. This is the sandwich of the week. Every week, I just love to do it. It's a thing we're going to do here. And this is the pretzel bun. This is a turkey sandwich with bacon, Colby Jack, avocado, greens on this beautiful pretzel bun. And just like, I don't know, just a little chonker here. I love this little one. That is it's like different because usually I do like those rustic breads, kind of a thing. But like having this like little bun, like having some elevation, it's just like a whole new dimension. Yeah, not the best looking sandwich I think that like I've done in a while. Like I go back to some of these great ones that I've had, like, oh gosh, what's like this one, like this. Oh, that was beautiful last week. The Study in Sunlight. I mean, that was first. That one was so fantastic. But yeah, I think I did a pretzel roll, I think, recently, but this is the first pretzel bun. So I got to switch up the breads. If Eats a Lot of Bread is still here, you know what I'm talking about. Because like, you eat a lot of bread, you got to switch it up. Anyways, that is the sandwich of the week. All right. Yeah, I was always working on a hockey-based story. Yeah, there are a lot of cool hockey scripts out there. That I was reading because I was actually also working, and hockey's big right now. But there's like, I mean, and there's different kinds. There's like Slapshot, there's the Mighty Ducks, there's Miracle about the Olympics, and that one has some really great hockey stuff in it. So yeah, lots of great scripts out there for sports related things. Tony's getting into the vibe. So glad you stopped by, Tony. The Earl of Sandwich, like I am royalty, actually. So that's great. This was hard. I will admit, like this, I had to stretch my jaw out quite a bit. But that reminds me, I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's like the, TikTok Reels trend where it's like women trying to eat at the same rate as their male partners, like their husbands or boyfriends. So it's be like, the woman will be filming and she'll have a burger and like her husband will have a burger and like she'll try to eat it at the same rate and like he'll eat it in like 3 bites and then she's just like in physical pain trying to do it. It's a great trend. Anyways, that's kind of how I felt when I ate this one because just like I had to take the biggest bites possible in order to scarf it down. All right, but we talked about so much after the first writing break. After the first writing sprint, we answered so many questions, which was awesome that we're like already at time here. We're already at almost 2:30 Pacific, which is when we normally end. So I will just say a quick reminder that we're doing this next week, 1 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific on the Arc Studio Screenwriting channel. This happens. So if you're new, I would love for you to come back. Work on your scripts, learn some things. This is a really great one. We're going to do a 15-minute sprint here at the end to finish things off. But if you have to go, no worries. I'm so glad that you came by and spent some time with us and gave that time to your writing. If you had to head out, say farewell in the chat. Let me know how your writing went. Otherwise, I will see you at the very end, and we will say our final farewells there. So I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock. We're going to go into the final write sprint. I'm so glad you all are here. And again, if you joined late, I think it's worth kind of going back to the earlier parts of the recording to just kind of like see the questions and the discussions that we all had here. And like, look at that. Tony came here for a coding thing and learned something about screenwriting. Fantastic. So here we go. 15 minutes on the clock. Thanks so much for being here. Again, if you have to leave, say farewell. Let me know how your writing went. And if not, we'll say our final farewells at the end of the sprint. So do it. Just like a little more energy, a little more time, a little more focus on your writing, and then you can go off to the rest of your week. So here we go. 15 minutes on the clock. Let's do it. All right, we are to the end. Fingers are flying. Still working, still got stuff to do. But that is the end of the writing sprint, and that is the end of Let's Write Scripts for Wednesday, January 28th, the last Let's Write Scripts in January. And next week's the first one in February, which, hey, that's cool. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. I had a great time. I hope you had a good time. I hope you made progress on your scripts, maybe learned something, enjoyed the creative community. Such a special time to be here with you guys every week. Again, one of the highlights of my week. So yeah, next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, here on the Arc Studio Screenwriting channel. I will see you then. Until then, be kind to yourselves and happy writing. And don't let this be the end of your writing practice. Let this be the start. Write as much as you can. Build a time. Build a habit. Make a schedule. Whatever it is. Carve out a time for yourself. We're creative people, and we need to be creative. We need to write. We need to create. All right, but that's it. So I'll see you guys all next week. Farewell.